Hey everyone, Suri here, and welcome back to another week of Astro Season offense matches. I decided to bring Brave Marth out of retirement this week after the Fallen Ike shenanigans last time around. While I haven't used him as much, I do think he's a very effective unit. Combining self-healing with a Vantage condition that isn't tied to his health level is a very unique niche, and can be very effective against teams stacked with Glass Cannon type threats. Nullsea Disrupt lets him ignore enemy sweeps and dazzles, and Mystic Boost is a nice way to complement his weapons and combat heals. I backed him up with a variety of support options, letting him adjust based on the available space on a map, or the threats he needs to deal with. Mine's a good way to round out his kit, offering him the damage reduction that he usually sacrifices to use Nullsea Disrupt, while Thor gives him a nice boost to combat stats and a way to push through guard effects. Eluid's a great bonus unit, offering a very consistent pulse tie along with bonus doubler to Marth, Thor, and Ashura. Not having a beast or dragon on the team means the Z-skill doesn't actually do anything, but it's not a major problem when Marth covers his own buffs anyway. There were a couple of points in the week that I wished I'd given him speed opening instead though, since the buffs offered by Ashura and Edelmine are just barely short of enabling the Vantage tier of Marth's weapon for free. Marth didn't quite get sweep the week. There were a couple of matches that went to my Thor Force team instead. Byleth's gotten a couple of merges since the last time I used the team, and is also using Wings of Mercy instead of Windsweep to give her easier access to the enemy team. She also went back to her default Fury, giving her a bit more bulk and a way to enable Wings of Mercy herself. Laroon is, of course, an excellent bonus unit for a Gale Force team. Having an extra dance is always a plus, and the combination of Allied Lance with 2 drive attack skills makes it very easy for her allies to demolish their opponents. Thor and Dimitri, as usual, are great initiators for the team. Dimitri's Canto and Sweep give him a very easy time navigating an enemy team and trapping key units, while Thor's an excellent way to break down the front door and let her team go to work. Now that we've gone over the teams, let's get to the first match. This match is going to be a fun way to start off the week. They've got a really impressive team here with a former Edelgard, who usually I'm not too impressed by, but this one's very highly invested, and can be a bit obnoxious to deal with thanks to the combination of the fortress placement and the lake in front of her. You've also got this maxed out Eirika on the side, who's got a pre-charged moonbow. It lets her hit really hard, especially if you're not ready to actually take that sort of a hit. They've also got a +10 Tiki in here to keep them relatively safe from hit-and-run approaches. Mid-season Tiki can actually be really surprisingly bulky. I'm not too sure about the Fortress skill. It does give her a bit of bulk if she ends up initiating combat, but something like Distant Defense 4 might help her out a bit more. And they've also got this +10 bonus week Seiros. Distant Ward's a neat touch, and together with Dragon Wall means that she has a very easy time shrugging off mages that might normally give her problems. And then they round that out with a Yuri, who's got his pre-charged Ruptured Sky and an ideal wall combo, and a Duma, who tragically does not have his remixed kit here. I think they might have intended to have it for him, at least the upgraded Upheaval, but, well, he's still a backup catapult in case someone tries to snipe this one on the first turn. And of course a Mirabilis in here to tie everything together. Having Mirabilis as a 7th slot doesn't do too much, although if someone tries to break through the Edelgard on the first turn before she transforms, it can really help the team start moving around the map. Overall, even though this is actually a boxed-in setup and isn't as threatening as it could be, there's enough raw stat on this team to make it something you need to take seriously. We're going to take a turn here just to get set up. I'm false starting Duma here to make sure that the upheaval doesn't land on us.
Close your
I'm going to dance Elamine, and move her over into this column to false start Eirika for next turn.
Yes.
And then we'll have Ashura and Thor test this bolt trap for us. It's real, that's fine. Marth is just going to use guidance to jump over here and break this ether pot. And we'll say go. And I'm actually going to need to take one more turn here. I forgot to make sure Marth didn't get tagged by this menace, which means that Thor ended up being the only one who gets the bonus doubler this turn. So I'll just take a turn to smite her onto this trap. Found the other real one. Good. Then we can flip her back out of the way, and wait one more turn. And now that we're ready to go, we're just going to move Marth in here to break the catapult and start tanking their team.
I'll do it.
If I figured this out correctly, Eirika should be the one to move in to attack him first, since he doesn't have Vantage Online yet, which is actually pretty important, since it also means she doesn't get to use her Moonbow on him.
A single strike.
Which makes her a lot less threatening overall. Duma should move in here, and he's just going to get Vantage down.
A single strike.
And then Yuri moves in, but he's not bulky enough that we actually need a special to finish him off in one hit. And Tiki and Seiros can't get in range here, so there's nothing to worry about there. From here, we'll start cleaning things up. We'll smite Marth forwards here, which gives Thor a little bit of space to move in and help support him. And Edelgard can do the same with Trace, which lets Marth just attack into Seiros and take her down.
A single strike. A single strike.
That was 2 strikes, but we'll go with it. Then we'll also just move Plumeria up here, and Dense Edelgard to debuff their team one more time.
I am the answer.
Move Ashura in to continue buffing everybody and say go. Tiki goes in first. She does get to land a hit since we're not actually getting the special on the first swing. But it's not really doing much damage to Marth.
For the hope of all.
And by the time Tiki Mirabilis attacks him and gets knocked out, he'll be right back to full health.
For the hope of all.
Which just ends up leaving this Edelgard to deal with. I'm going to try and get her moving on this turn instead of waiting it out. And if we Dense Edelgard here, reposition her over and smite Ashura forwards, we can have Marth break the healing tower,
I will go.
Edelgard break the tactic rune,
Yes.
and Ashura break the hindrance. And from here we should be able to at least get to work on Edelgard's health bar, if not finish her off. Or can move over here and support Marth for when he goes in. We'll Dense Edelgard and smite Plumeria over to do the same thing. Move Edelgard in and have Marth go in and take down this Edelgard in one round of combat.
For the hope of all. Believe in me.
It's good to see him doing this. It's been a while since I used him. This match is going to be a bit of a slower one than the last one, but it should still be fun to watch Marth tank his way through this +10 Reinhardt. It's been a while since I've seen a Lensbreaker Quickened Pulse Reinhardt. It's a good way to make sure that he gets a chance to use his Moonbow in his first round of combat, and against non-hardy fighter Hectors gives him a good chance of winning the fight outright. They've also got this Brave Eliwood with his Verfine, who's pretty spooky. Even with this unfortunate speed flaw, he can be a hard unit to handle for a lot of save armors. And the Brave Veronica in the corners, always a bit of a nuisance to deal with. It is awkward to see another non-remixed and non-refined Duma on the team. Honestly, mostly just for not seeing Upheaval 2, since it doesn't cost Dew or anything, it's just SP, and there's no real reason not to use it. They've also got a bonus week Seiros, and a Fallen Ike on the other side of the field. I don't see Fallen Ike much on defenses, but if you're using sabotages, like this team is, he can get pretty difficult to handle. And of course a Mirabilis just to tie the whole team together. It's a decent enough collection of units, but locking them behind a wall like this really doesn't help them, especially when they're using 3 cavalry units who would really appreciate the extra mobility. I don't think we're going to have too hard a time with this. We should be able to get things started after taking a turn or so to clear things out on the right side of the map. We'll start just by having Ashura reposition Thor forwards. I'd like to test these bolt traps as early as we can,
There is but
and
one
see if we can test this one. Good. Found the real one already. So we'll just have Elamine nudge Plumeria over a little, which lets Marth jump past her,
They will
and let
submit.
him and Thor continue clearing out the structures. And from here we're just going to open things up a little more while we get in position.
Yes?
Opening up this bright shrine will give us access to this tile
Close
for
your
the
eyes.
following turn. We can just dance Ashra
There
here,
is but one
move her back
Try
over,
your will.
and move Thor up.
I
And from
believe
here
in
we
you.
can get things going.
Why not?
Since we found the real trap, Marth can just open that up for us, and having Panic Immunity means we don't need to worry about this either. So we'll just move him in and let him finish off Veronica.
For the hope of all. My turn?
And then conduct a movement chain to
Yes.
get Elamine all the way up here,
I will go.
and immediately regret nudging him forwards since I somehow forgot Reinhardt could actually reach this tile, and he'll be able to threaten this one too after Eliwood attacks. So we're just going to
I seek a
let
foe.
Marth tank this without damage reduction, and hope that I've not dug myself in too deep.
Yeah. Believe in me.
He'll get pretty low, but thankfully Mirabilis has to attack him first and top him up before Reinhardt gets to take his shot. Which means he's got a pretty solid shot of surviving this,
Victory is ours.
especially when he just gets to vantage Reinhardt down. None of the rest of the team can actually get in range, so we're safe from the rest of them here.
I believe in
Some
you.
unintentional styling later,
Close
though
your
we
eyes.
are in a pretty good spot to clean this up. We'll just have Marth break a couple of structures here and
Speak.
get all of his
I
support
am the
online,
answer.
Let's see now.
and get ready to start picking up this Aether pot before we finish Doom off and close out the match. Oh, Seiros moves first. I think she does get to survive this first swing, but she's not going to survive the second. Effective damage does a lot of
A
work.
single strike.
Oh, never mind. He's actually got quite a lot of res here.
Yeah.
But even with his unities online, Ike is
Victory is
not
ours.
pulling out ahead of this. Which just leaves Duma, who is very easy to handle after
I'll
we
do it.
let Elamine move
I
in
will go.
to pick up the pot,
I believe in you.
and then he gets to finish him off.
Victory is ours.
It was a solid clear. This match is going to be an interesting one. It's been a while since I ran into a 6-unit defense team, especially one without any mythics on it at all. But it's still got quite a lot of threat on it, thanks to this full spectrum of mage cavalry units. Leaf and Lysithea are already very strong on their own, and Gunthra's debuffs are very powerful with her remix, but the real star of this show is this maxed out Whispering Delthea. I haven't actually seen a maxed out Delthea yet, so it's very cool to run into her here. Her weapon synergizes really well with Gunthra, and the 2 level 8 shrines on the sides, making it very easy for them to both get most of the effects, if not all of them, from these weapons. And the flow effect and sweep effect that Delthea can get make her extremely hard to handle when she's got this much speed to work with, especially if she gets to rally over, if you're baiting from out of her range, and then she gets danced by this peony. They've also set up their traps and are packing this Gustav in the back line to try and keep them safe from Gale Force approaches, and overall I do think this actually works out pretty well. Even without mythics, the lower health totals can actually be good for them if they're not running into, let's say, a Vantage Sweeper, since it can dramatically lower how much you can sustain your way through this. Marth is a bit of an anomaly though, and Not only can he Vantage Sweep most of this map, he should also be able to heal himself for most of the damage he takes in the first combat. We're going to get things started right away here, and just make sure that we get these shrines and Gunthra as well soaked by our various teammates. He will still end up taking a couple of debuffs from this Delthea, but it shouldn't be enough, assuming I've figured this out correctly, to have Marth get destroyed. And I actually ended up missing my positioning a bit here. Well, I meant to have somebody in this corner to have everybody out of range of their team except for Marth, but I'll just have to leave Ashura here to bait Leaf out. I think he'll still go after Marth anyway, since Ashura has much higher res than Marth does, but we'll see. If I figured this out correctly, Leaf ends up going after Marth first, and can do a solid chunk of damage. But he doesn't get to hit a second time, or survive the first hit. And the reason he ends up attacking before Delthea did is because he just doesn't let Marth heal. And from here, none of their team can actually survive Marth's first hit, so he'll just Vantage Sweep his way through everything except the Gustav in the back. Gunthra moves in. Even with the debuffs involved, she's not actually surviving that. And neither is Delthea.
Believe in me.
Oh, ended up going pretty well after all. And from here we'll just need to take a couple of turns to get to these Aether pots in the corner. I don't think it'll be too hard, and we should be able to get them both after this turn.
Let's see now.
Why not?
There we go. Especially since we did end up finding a real heavy trap. And then just smite Ashura forwards and upgrade North Crafty to pick this first pot up. We'll reposition Marth forwards and slowly get Elamine in to reach this Aether pot.
I will go.
And then let Marth move over and keep her safe.
For the hope of all.
And down goes Gustav. This match is another oddball match. They've got a 6-unit team again, with no Anima mythics, although they do have Bramond, who's out of season in the corner here, and Lysithea on the other side as another infantry mage threat who overlaps the threat range with the Veronica that's plus 10 Reinhardt, and the Leaf on the other side overlaps with Bramond. While this is a pretty basic setup, it has a couple of tricks up its sleeve. These two harsh commands can definitely spike the power levels of either Reinhardt, Leaf, Bramond, or Lysithea, and Veronica's Restore helps her to clear off any debuffs that the enemy team might bring, before potentially getting danced around the map as well. I think the real purpose of this map, though, is to make it as annoying as possible to actually reach these Aether pots in the corners, since it can be tricky to reach these safely before you can safely knock out everything on the map. I don't think it's going to give us too many problems, though. I think we should be able to get things cleared out. Starting on the first turn here. We'll get started by smiting Marth forwards onto this heavy trap, which is fake. It's fine. Repositioning Plumeria in, and Marth's just going to go in and demolish the Lysithea.
For the hope of all.
And then we'll dance him forwards, and he can do the same thing to Reinhardt.
I believe in you. Yeah.
Which actually gets his Shining Emblem pre-charged. I'm pretty sure Bramond's going to be the first one to attack him here.
There is but one future.
And then we'll just say go. I'm not sure which Harsh Command. Okay, Harsh Command goes first, and then the dance, then the restore, and in comes Bramond, who, even with his stats back to normal, can't survive this Shining Emblem. And, well, Leaf isn't going to have a very good time of this either. And we should be able to clean up the map from here. Knocking out a Zero means that we don't have to worry about any dances anymore. And by smiting Plumeria forwards here, she can actually jump all the way over Marth and dance him, so that he can lock this Veronica behind a wall of their own making, which will let us just work our way towards these Aether pots without having to worry too much. Asher can grab her first one.
Why not?
Plumeria can get the second. And we'll let Marth close things out.
Believe in me.
This match is an interesting one. It's another 6-unit setup in a row with another +10 Reinhardt on their team. It's really interesting to run into this many of these in a row. It's not something I usually see. And it's also surprising just how annoying a basic cav line can still be. I was thinking about using Marth for this, but the Veronica ends up healing all over the map here thanks to Bernadetta's Priest, and Reinhardt is pretty spooky if he ends up getting to attack Marth, so we're just going to Gale Force this instead. Part of the problem with Gale Forcing this, actually, is just finding enemies that have enough bulk to take more than one hit, which is a bit of a requirement for this team. We're going to take advantage of our safety fence on this first turn to avoid the initial stampede.
Yes.
They will submit.
And we'll be able to get things going on the next turn. Okay. From here, we're just going to move Thor up, and dance her. And smite Dimitri forward too. And we'll let Thor get things started by Gale Forcing Mirabilis. And from there, Dimitri can step forward, knock out Veronica, and then take a step to the left to start locking this Reinhardt in the corner. Or is just going to move in and take down Mia. And then the room can wing all the way in to dance her. We'll have Byleth wing in too and knock out Bernadetta. Before letting Thor scooch over and take down the other Bernadetta. And with that, we're nice and safe with our Gale Force. And then we'll just have Thor move over, pick up our pot. Let the room pick up the second pot.
Do what you please.
And have Dimitri close things out. This match will be an interesting return to 7-unit teams this week. They've got a variety of units here that you don't see too often on a defense, including this Forma Felicia, and a Forma Micaiah, along with a Winter Suffering, and an Elise. It's a bit of a shame to not see either Felicia or Elise using their refined weapons. It would definitely help them both out quite a bit. They do have a lot of investment on these mythics too, including this +8 Thracier, the +4 Seiros in her bonus week, and a very nearly maxed out Mirabilis, just missing a Floret. It's an interesting team overall. The 7th unit Micaiah gives them a backup option in case someone tries to hit and run and misses the Micaiah, and makes sure that they have another option for dancing at that point. And the bonus week Thracier can get really bulky, especially with the extra stats she's getting from Mirabilis, and the Wings of Light means that their Thracier can actually do quite a bit of work if you don't take her seriously. With that said, I'm really not expecting Marth to have any problems here. We should be able to get things started after we test a trap and clear some structures out. I'm going to have Elamine test this bolt trap for us. It's fake, that's fine. And since we did get false start both their armor march and the odd recovery, we don't have to worry about the threat range extending this turn. So we'll just start moving everybody else over.
Close your eyes.
Intense Marth and have break some structures along with Ashura
I will go.
and Elamine. And then from here we can get things going. We'll have Elamine break this bolt tower and move forward a little bit to
My turn?
support Marth once he gets in there.
I seek a foe. I believe in you.
We'll have him step forwards and dance in,
Yes?
then have him move in and break this healing tower. And then Ashura can reposition Thor forwards, and we'll say go. We should just go down the health chain here. Oh, Seiros moves first. She does get some damage to stick. But the effective damage and no follow-up is just a little too much for her. And from here, well, Thracer's not going to even get a chance to land that hit. Neither is Elise.
Victory is ours.
And then we just close things out with Felicia.
Yeah.
From here, we're actually going to have Marth go ahead and knock out Mirabilis.
For the hope of all.
I don't need to worry about ending the match here, since Sephiroth should always just restore Nakaya to clear her debuffs, since you won't be able to find a knockout this turn either. Then we'll have Thor reposition Ashura over to start working right towards this pot.
Speak.
Elamine can grab our first pot, and we'll dance
I
her
will do it. I will go.
to continue supporting Marth for this coming turn.
One future.
And we'll just have Ashura wait in place and say go. I'm not sure if it'll... Oh, it is Micaiah. Oh, I did forget about the odd recovery. Oof. Well, that means we end up missing a pot here. Not quite according to plan, but we should still be fine.
For the hope of all.
This match will be a neat one at the end of the week. They've got a cav line here. I've been seeing more of these lately. I do think they're still pretty effective and can actually be effective even if you don't have 7 units on the team. So you might end up seeing quite a few of these in next week's Chaos season. I don't think this one's quite as effective as some cav lines can be. They're only covering 4 lanes with threats, which doesn't quite cover all of the available hiding places for an opponent if they're not using a far save, and can make it a little easier to navigate this. They do have a variety of threats to handle though. The miracle effect from Leaf can always be really annoying, and of course the dual Leaf over here is always a bit of a menace, and the Veronica with her dazzling staff, and Lysithea with potential for quads. The Harmonicas are a great way to actually help dance these cavalry since she can keep up with them. And the Dorothy in the corner is a 7th slot dancer again, which doesn't let her do much for this initial stampede, but if someone tries to hit and run by just picking something off and managing to get out of range, potentially with a Claude and Fallen Star, it can definitely help the team catch up and actually pick something off. They also have quite an array of duo and harmonic units on their team, which makes it a lot harder to actually use any duo skills before you basically have the match cleared out already. I don't think we're going to have too many problems here. We should actually be able to get things started and close things out fairly easily, just by letting Marth sweep his way through most of the major threats on the first turn. We'll start by having Elamine open up this armory and Ento her way out of Leaf's attack range. Then Marth is just going to move up here,
Close
get
your
danced,
Yes?
and then plonk himself in front of Leaf.
I seek a foe.
Thor can move in behind him, and we'll let Ashra actually bait Veronica out so that we know where she's going to be for next turn. From here, Veronica should be the first one to attack, but she can't actually get anything done to Ashra. And while the combat debuffs do start applying to Marth, it's not enough for Leaf to actually knock him out.
For the hope of all.
And while Fatal Smoke does stop Marth from healing in this combat, it's not going to stop him from healing in this one. Leaf does get to get some damage done thanks to Miracle Effect,
For the hope of all.
but Marth still comes out of this with a net gain in health. And, well, once he starts vantaging Azura and Lysithea, they don't have much of a hope of pulling through this.
Victory is ours.
And Seiros just can't catch up. And from here we'll end up baiting this Veronica into this corner so that we have an easy time picking up the pots later. Marth is just going to go over here and limit her attack range.
Speak.
And then we'll have Elamine and Thor move in to support him. Yep. Seiros moves in, but even though she does get to actually swing here, it's not going to be enough to crack Marth.
Victory is ours.
And damage reduction or not, she's not surviving that counter swing. Now that everything's in position, we're actually going to just have Marth check this trap. Oh, it's fake.
I'll do it.
That makes things a little less risky overall. And he can move over and take down Dorothea.
Believe in me.
And we'll have Elamine break this hot spring. We'll move Ashra over and smite her in to keep Veronica in her hidey hole.
They will submit.
We'll need to take one more turn here to close out the match, just because the pots are a little far out.
Why not?
But that's fine.
I will
It's
go.
not like Veronica's going anywhere. And once we grab the second pot, we can let Marth close things out.
A single strike.
This match was an unfortunate one, all the way at the end of the week. They had a very cool team put together here, including a double dance trap with Harmonica Azura and Mirabilis, and a 7th unit Duo Dogger. Assuming the Azura gets to dance her, she actually shares the threat range with the young Larashal standing behind her. And the combination of the Witchy Wand initiation and Dogger's null follow-up and potentially full buff spectrum means that they have a very easy time dismantling a lot of safe armors. They also have this very impressive Duocrom in the corner, whose Green Feud and ARD attack defense skill make him really hard to handle for most things that might actually be able to deal with the Dogger. And the Wings of Mercy gives them very easy access to the map if anything actually gets damaged. They also have a Kanto control Seiros on the other side, and a Farsave Hector as a bodyguard to shut down hit and run attempts. It's a very cool team overall. I actually could have pulled this off if I had done my math correctly. I expected Marth to be able to bait Azura here, but I was 2 res off on my calculation. And unfortunately that means that we don't end up baiting Azura and she ends up dancing the Dogger. Which doesn't go badly at the start, but it does mean that they end up getting to use both dances instead of just one. So, while we do get to handle Larashal, and also vantage this Dogger down, it doesn't help when Chrom gets to attack into our advantage, survive it, and use it to fully charge his Deadeye. This match should be a fun way to close out the week. They've got a pretty neat team set up here with this brave Marth on their front line, and a Summer Tana beside him. I haven't run into too many defenses using a Super Guidance effect yet, though I imagine we'll start seeing more of those next week in Chaos Season. It does a lot to really help the team be a bit more unpredictable with its movements, and it gives this Joshua very easy access to anything that Seiros or Marth can attack. It also means that the Fjorm and Niffle and Seiros over here are a little more mobile than you might expect. And honestly, just having that extra guidance can be enough to catch people off guard and secure a match. The extra stats that Marth offers his allies also makes them quite a lot more dangerous if you're not running a panic effect on the offense team, and the sweep and null follow-up is a very powerful combination from Joshua. Niffle, meanwhile, does a pretty good job of deterring any Gale Force approaches thanks to the extra damage reduction she gives her allies, and Marth over here with his pre-charged Shining Emblem is a very scary threat. He is a little bit vulnerable in enemy weeks, just thanks to Elamine being a presence on offense teams, but if he doesn't get Elamined, I imagine he can do quite a lot of work. I'm going to take this first turn just to test some traps and start getting in position.
I seek a foe.
I think we should have a pretty easy time of this overall. And from here, we're just going to smite Thor forwards and let her move in and take down Seiros. It'll take her 2 hits, but that's important. We do need to make sure we actually Gale Force here. And then we can Dense Dimitri in,
I'll do it.
and have him go after Marth. And Dimitri can also step forward and take down Tana. We'll have him wait in place here to help box in Joshua later, and losing that attack support means that Byleth can move in and take down Niffle. Which is important since she also barely one-shots this Fjorm thanks to her armor school, and wouldn't actually be able to get the second hit to secure a Gale Force there. Then Lorien can wing in and dance her to complete the trap. Thor can just start breaking her way towards these Aether pots. And from there we'll have Thor break one pot, Lorien break another one, and then Byleth can take down Joshua. Before Dimitri moves in and closes out the match. It was a fun week overall. It was really good to see Marth doing so well, even with that one slightly awkward match at the end of the week. And I'm happy to see the Gale Force team pulling its weight too. Next week should be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to the Chaos matches and all of the options it opens up for team building. Though I'm not looking forward to the defense side of things quite as much. Kind of expecting to get pummeled there, but we'll see. I do have a Discord server if you'd like to hang out and chat or get any updates on videos and schedules. There's a link in the description, and I've also got a Patreon link there too if you'd like to help support the channel. As always, I hope you've enjoyed the video, good luck with your own matches, and I'll see you next time.